Yeah, good morning, viewers. Richard Rogers, Iowa Firearms Coalition here at the Iowa Machine Shed Restaurant in Urbandale. We've just enjoyed a good breakfast with the Westside Conservative Club, and I'm speaking this morning with Senator Zach Nunn.
Thanks, Richard.
From Eastern Polk County and Jasper County. And just to introduce Senator Nunn to you all, how long have you been in the Senate, Senator?
Yeah, so 3 years, Richard, in the Senate, serving as a chairman, and then prior to that, 4 years in the Iowa House as Judiciary Chair and Majority Whip.
That's right. You were Judiciary Chair in the House, and we dealt with you on bills of interest to Iowa Firearms Coalition members.
That's right.
Over there, and you're on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. And
yes.
So we worked closely together on several bills, including the Freedom Amendment. Maybe we'll talk about that later.
Good plug right there. Yep, absolutely.
Add the right to keep, strong protections for the right to keep bear arms to the Iowa Constitution. So that'll be on the ballot next November.
And we started that back when we were in the House, got through both sessions.
That's right.
Strong leadership from the IFC and great support from people across the country.
And it's a critical thing. We've made tremendous strides over the last decade or so in streamlining and changing the weapons laws in Iowa to reflect the rights that we are protected by the Second Amendment. But that could all go away in a single legislative session if the wrong folks were in power. It could even be worse. Therefore, we've got to get this in the Constitution, and then it will be very difficult to reverse the gains that we've made. But we're going to get to something else. Senator Nunn has some great news on a bill he's introduced. But before we get to that, again, let's learn a little bit more about you. You've taken the oath to defend the Constitution, both as a state representative and as a state senator, but you've also got a military background, a strong and long military background. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. So commissioned in 2003 as an officer within the military, became airborne intelligence, have flown 3 combat tours, over 700 combat hours in Afghanistan, Iraq, off the coast of Russia. Very much appreciate all of our veterans who have served, and we've all sworn an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that's why it's so important that our constitutional rights, not only something that we fought overseas for, but that we protect here at home as well.
That's right. That's right. Can you tell us a little bit about this bill? We've seen, just to give a little hint of it, we've seen a movement in Iowa. Yesterday we had the 23rd county that passed a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution within Iowa counties, and that's just happened within the last couple of months or so. We're up to 23. I know there are some others that are considering it.
Exactly.
The legislature is they were out of session earlier this year.
Yep.
You came back for redistricting. Maybe we talk a little bit about that, but you came back for redistricting for one day, and you're going to come back at the end of October, and then perhaps later. You've just introduced a bill in this sort of intermittent session that's going on now.
Yeah, so Richard,
relates to this.
Let me highlight here. You know, the last 2 weekends out, I have been to firing ranges with folks from across the country. Most recently, we were in Jasper County, which is the first county to have passed the sanctuary bill. We were able to shoot clay pigeons, do a trap shoot, very successful with shotguns. The weekend prior, I was in Polk County, and we fired things like a 1956 Russian machine gun, a grenade launcher, a lot of weapons that under this Biden administration, you might not even be able to have in your possession, let alone go out to your local firing range and be able to launch. And so this bill is really a reflection of where our locals have already been leading the charge. A sanctuary type bill, but I would say at the state level, this isn't sanctuary from the federal government. We have a constitutional right under the 10th Amendment to be able to protect and enforce our own rights. And so what this bill does is it says specifically to Second Amendment in Iowa, we will not force our local sheriffs, our law enforcement, our cities or counties to mandate whatever the federal government is putting out. That we have laws here in Iowa to protect ourselves and preserve the Second Amendment through the good work of IFC. What Iowans are going to get to vote in 2022 on the November ballot to say our laws on the Second Amendment are to protect the citizens and that aspect of it, not to be in a position to enforce whatever the federal government pushes down, not through Congress, but through fiat, through things like a department regulation or an agency memo that now has to be enforced by a police officer or a deputy sheriff in our area. And that would basically preserve not only our Second Amendment rights, but send a clear message to Washington, D.C. that we're not in the business of being deputized by a federal agency to start enforcing laws that we find are in violation of the Constitution.
And the courts have already long acknowledged that the federal government may not commandeer state authority, state resources, state personnel to enforce federal laws.
Absolutely right, exactly.
And so this is in line with that. If we thought it was going to be, thought it was a good law, we'd have it in the Iowa law. If we thought it was constitutional and a good thing to do, we'd have it in Iowa law.
Which we can do, absolutely.
And if not, we're not going to be dragooned into enforcing it. Is that right?
And this is a reflection of where Iowans want to be, right? You're absolutely right, Richard. If this was something that Iowans said, hey, we need to have this happen, then petition your elected officials, and we can make that happen already at the state level. But overwhelmingly, we have unelected officials in Washington, D.C. deciding what might be better for Iowans. And that becomes not only dangerous, but a very slippery slope on who gets control over your constitutional rights. And that's something that should be decided by you, the individual, as we're putting on the ballot, not something by somebody who's been appointed by a Biden administration.
That's right. Now, we don't have a bill number for this yet. It's just
introduced. We had about 4 hours of a special session. The good news is we're going to do another special session on the redistricting here in about 30 days. And we also have an upcoming legislative calendar. So I would like to see this move quickly with support from individuals across Iowa. We have good support on the House side too. A salute to a number of the individuals from the Second Amendment caucus on the House side who are also pushing this bill. We've got good support in the Senate, and if we can't get it done in the one day we're back in session, it's going to be the first on the docket for January.
That's right. So there's still an open question about whether you'll address any policy issues other than redistricting in the next session. Perhaps we'll get an action alert out in support of your bill. We've got to get a bill number. IFC will keep you informed on all of this. We did not talk about exactly where you represent. Where do you live and what is your district?
So I've got one of those unique districts. I cover 2 congressional districts. I go everything from the east side of Des Moines out to Pleasant Hill, Altoona, Bondurant, all the way through the majority of Jasper County, just touching Grinnell, but cover Newton, Colfax, Prairie City. This is the perfect example of Iowa, right? We have an urban, a suburban, and a lot of rural. And so when we talk Second Amendment rights, I can knock on a door of a guy who's a blue-collar, hardworking union guy, but a priority for him is his Second Amendment rights. I can go to a suburban neighborhood in Altoona and talk to a mom and say, you know what, Second Amendment rights are important for me to be able to defend my family. This covers the spectrum. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a personal privacy issue, a public safety issue, and a constitutional rights issue that resonates across the board.
You talk about moms in the suburbs. In the last couple of years, we've seen a tremendous increase in the number of women and minority groups, people that usually don't think you'll see out at the range, who are buying guns, taking training, becoming responsible gun owners that weren't concerned about this in the past. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We won't get into that now. Now, thank you very much for telling us about your bill and for introducing that. Let's just talk.
And let me just say, thanks to IFC and your members for being able to empower us to bring this bill forward. Without the support of your membership, these bills would go forward and we would get a lot of resistance, particularly, I'm going to say, from Democrats who tend to speak without having any support behind them. When I introduce bills like this, it's because I believe in it, you believe in it, but the membership of IFSC is who helps us be able to deliver this to the governor's desk. So thanks to you and the team that you put together.
Let's talk about one other thing. You've got another project going on, and you're running for a higher office in the Republican primary that will be next June.
Yep.
And what office and why are you doing this?
So we are running for the 3rd Congressional District. This is against Cindy Axne. It's been identified as one of the top 3 congressional races in the country. We only need 5 to win back Congress and to be able to make Leader McCarthy, Speaker McCarthy, and send Nancy Pelosi packing back to California. But most importantly, a majority in Congress can hold the Democratic administration accountable. And if we don't have that, they can push through these things that we're talking about right now. I decided to run for Congress. Have served in the military, have served locally, and one of the big things about serving locally is, not only are all politics local, but that's the best way to help your community. And so when I see the heartland community across the Midwest being just pummeled by folks out of Washington, D.C., not only does it make me mad, but we have to do something to be able to help that. And this is an area where I feel like just how I serve my local community, I want to serve the heartland, Iowa, and make sure that our values, our voices, are actually being heard and reflected in Washington. And in the 3rd District today, that's not happening. We were very fortunate to just be announced as the Young Guns. Out of 700 Republicans running for Congress right now, 30 of them were identified not only as viable candidates, but leading candidates. And we were the only one from Iowa picked up in this Young Guns category from Leader McCarthy. Humbled, a lot of hard work ahead of us.
I think it's fair to say that Congresswoman Axne has not separated herself from the Biden gun control agenda. Is that right?
She has spent more time in California and New York than in the other counties around Iowa, spending time actually talking to Iowans. So that becomes not only a concern for us on who she's listening to, but on the types of bills that she has been supportive of that really restrict our Second Amendment rights.
And we don't know exactly what the new 3rd district is going to look like. That's part of the redistricting session that you're doing in the legislature right now. But it's expected to be Polk County and west as it is now.
Yep.
We don't know the exact makeup of it, so that'll be determined. Well, thank you very much,
Hey,
Senator. We really appreciate your
Richard,
time
thank you
this
so
morning.
much. I appreciate
and thank
it.
you for introducing this bill, and we'll get the number to our IFC members and followers as soon as we can.
And if people want to reach out, it is zachnunn.com. Let me know your thoughts. Give me your feedback. zachnunn.com. I want to be able to be your voice, be a champion for you, but also hear your feedback. That's how we make good legislation. Thanks so much,
Senator.
Richard.